Make this the best holiday season yet with these 9 easy Christmas gifts to sew.
This scrunchie is as cute as it is functional. Great for stashing cash or other small items. Let's get started. Cut fabric to the sizes needed. Lay a piece of the 6.5-inch fabric face up, then lay the zipper face down on top of it. Line the end edges and then pin in place. Do the same at the other end with the other 6.5-inch piece. Sew it together. You want to sew it about 1 inch in. It should be stitched right where the stoppers are on the zipper. Be sure to do a back stitch at the start and finish, as well as going over the zipper section a few times. Now, lay the 18.5-inch fabric face up. Lay the zipper fabric face down on top of it, about halfway unzipped. Line the side edges up all the way across and pin in place. Sew all the way down that pinned side using just a little less than 1/4 seam allowance. Do a back stitch at the start and finish, as well as both ends of the zipper. When you get to where the zipper is, make sure your needle is down, and then lift the foot and slide the zipper past the foot, then put the foot back down. Doing this will be much easier to stitch past. If you are enjoying this project, be sure to like this video and let us know what you are going to keep in your scrunchie pocket. Pin the other side just as before. Sew down the other side just as you did the first side. Visit happiestcamper.com for more free sewing projects. Unzip the zipper and turn the whole thing right side out. Stick the elastic through the end and hold it with your fingers. Feed it through to the other end, making sure not to get it twisted. Pinch the ends together and then twist them into a knot. Slide the knotted end of the elastic through and to the side a little. Then on one end of the fabric, turn it evenly inside itself by about 1/4 inch. Now tuck the other side into that folded side by about 1/4 inch. Enjoying this project? Make sure to subscribe for more. Make sure you have your seams lined up at the top. Sew them together as close to the edge as you can get. Do a back stitch at the start and finish. When you get to the side with the elastic, try to stretch the elastic a little before stitching over it. Trim any threads and you are done. Now you have a cute way to store small items on the go. What a great accessory! When the weather starts to cool and you feel that chill in the air, there is nothing cozier than a warm cowl scarf. This project is as cute as it is functional. Let's get started. Select your fabric for the outer part and the lining of your scarf and lay it out on your table or cutting mat. Cut one piece that is 9.5 inches by 32.5 inches from each piece of fabric. Lay the lining, in my case Sherpa, with the fuzzy side up. Then, lay the flannel face down on top of the lining and pin the two pieces together along both long sides. Sew the two pieces together along those long sides, making sure to remove your pins as you go. You can just line up the edge of the fabric with the edge of the sewing foot for your seam allowance. Remember to do a lock stitch at the start and end of both sides. A lock stitch is when you start sewing, push the reverse button to run back over those few stitches, then release the button and keep sewing. Now, fold the scarf inside itself so that all the raw edges are at one end. Make sure the ends line up and pin them in place. If you have a machine that has the front panel that is removable, it makes it easier to sew around the scarf. Starting on the Sherpa side of the fabric, sew the edges together, making sure you are only sewing 2 edges together and not all 4 as you work your way around. We want that middle area to stay open. When you are almost done, leave a 3 to 4 inch opening on the flannel side for turning. Now, reach inside the opening and pull the fabric through so that all the right sides are now outside. Go slow and take your time so you don't mess up your stitches. It will take a little working to get all the fabric through. The last thing we need to do is close that opening you just pulled everything through. To do this, simply fold the raw edges slightly inside so you have a smooth edge showing on the outside. Add some pins here to hold it closed. Then, sew as close to the edge as you can to close it up. Do a lock stitch at the start and finish on this as well. Just be sure you are only sewing the flannel opening and not to the Sherpa side. This is a great little project to tackle as the weather begins to cool off. Make a few of these and give them as gifts to friends and family. It will keep them warm inside and out. You clip this earbud pouch to a purse or backpack so you're never without them. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do is cut one of each of the 5-inch fabric circles in half. Lay one of the lining fabric half circles face up. Then, lay the zipper face up on top of that, making sure the flat edge of the circle matches the edge of the zipper. Lay the top fabric half circle face down so that you are looking at the back side of it on top of the zipper. Place the batting fabric half circle on top of that. Make sure all the edges are lined up and use a few pins to pin it all together. Sew the layers together with the zipper along the flat side where you lined it up. You want to sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. At the start and end of your stitch, you need to do a lock stitch. You do that by starting the stitching for a few stitches, then hold the reverse button and back over those stitches. Then simply release the button and keep stitching. Fold the finished flaps over so the right side of the fabric is facing up. Repeat the same process above, layering the fabric on the other side of the zipper and sewing in place. After you're done sewing, trim off the excess batting between the stitch line and the lined edge on both sides. You want to trim off as much as you can, but make sure not to cut your stitching. Fold the flaps over and iron them down. Next, we will add the pull tab for the zipper. Start by unzipping the zipper so that it is just inside the fabric area. Using a needle and thread, add a tack stitch to hold the zipper together right at the edge of the fabric. This will hold it together so we can add the pull tab. Stitch down the middle of the tab you just made to hold it in place. Insert the tab through the ring on the clip and fold the tab over so the edges meet. With the zipper facing up, lay it so the folded edges meet the tack stitch on the zipper. Use the sewing machine to do a quick stitch to hold it in place. We are almost done with this cute earbud case. Lay the top fabric circle face down on the circle with the zipper. Lay the batting circle on top of that, and finally, the lining circle on top of that. Add a few pins around the circle to hold all the layers together. Go back to your sewing machine and sew it all together. You want to stitch all the way around about the circle with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Remember to do a lock stitch at the start and finish of the stitching. You may need to lift the foot every so often to work out the puckers in the fabric as you stitch around. When you get to the sides with the zipper, you'll need to run over them a few times. To do this, just hold the reverse button like you do with a lock stitch. After you're done sewing, cut off the extra ends of the zipper and trim the fabric around the edges. Just turn the pouch right side out and drop in your earbuds. Now you have a super cute way to carry your earbuds on the go. Make some for the whole family. Want more project ideas and sewing tutorials? Be sure to visit us at happiestcamper.com for all your sewing needs. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get all our latest sewing tutorials. Comment below and tell us what you have been making lately. We love seeing what our viewers are creating. It can be hard to find the perfect gift. Sometimes giving a gift card is the best you can do. This cute gift card holder spruces up any gift card and allows even the pickiest gift givers to feel confident that their gift will be well received. Get a head start on your gift giving this year with this fun sewing tutorial. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do is print out the included pattern. This free pattern makes it easy to make cute mini stockings again and again without the headache. Lay out the pattern and draw around the boots template twice on whatever fabric you choose. I find that it is helpful to iron the fabric before you start so that it is way easier to trace your pattern as well as cut it out. For the next step, you can choose either the heart or the circle and draw it out on your complementary fabric. For this tutorial, we went with the circle. Like before, just cut out the shape the best you can. On your circle cutout, use a pencil to draw a snowflake. Just have fun with it. No two snowflakes are alike. Now for the fun part. Break out your sewing needle and stitch over your drawing with red thread. Next, it's time to decorate your stockings. Hand sew the snowflake you just made onto one of the boot pieces with an embroidery stitch. Once you have that sewn on, put the two cut-out boot pieces from the earlier step together. Make sure that the snowflake you added is on the inside, since we will turn the stocking later. Hand sew the boot pieces together with a basic stitch. Now you can turn your stocking right side out. We are about halfway through making our mini gift card stocking tutorial, and the stocking is starting to take shape. With the boot facing out, fold back the top of the material and pin it in place. Let's add a little ribbon to our mini stocking. Start by cutting a small piece. This will be the hanger for our stocking. Sew the little ribbon you just cut to the top of the stocking. I put mine right on top of the seam in the back of the boot. You can add it wherever you think is best for you and your space. Draw the upper part of the boot on whatever complementary material you choose and cut it out. Sew the two ends of it together, making a circle. Make sure it fits on the boot before you start sewing. Simply sew it on the boot. I started at the top edge. It doesn't matter if you start at the top or the bottom, as both will get sewed. You can make these so quick and easy, it really is a great one to crank out a bunch with. Now, giving a gift card can be as exciting as any gift. It is so fun to make gifts for friends and family. Be sure to check out our other sewing tutorials and projects for more great gift ideas. There are lots of reasons to make cloth napkins. They are pretty, easy to make, reduce paper costs, and reduce waste. Let's get started. Pick out some coordinating fabric quarters. Begin by ironing your fabric to remove wrinkles and ensure the fabric is straight. This will give you nice looking edges. Measure and cut 18-inch squares out of 2 coordinating fabrics. Pin them together along the edges with the right sides of fabric facing each other. Now it's time to sew. Use your sewing machine to stitch around the square with 1/2 inch seam allowance, leaving a 3-inch gap along the middle of one side. This is so you can turn the napkin right side out in a later step. After trimming end threads, cut each corner of the square to allow the fabric to lay flatter at the corners. Just be sure not to cut your stitches. Through the opening you created, reach in and pull the fabric right side out. Use a chopstick or blunt stick-type object to carefully push corners out all the way. The fabric along the opening should lay flat once you turn the fabric. Ensure it is straight. Then iron all the way around the square. Finally, top stitch around the napkin with 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can do a straight stitch again or choose a decorative finishing stitch, whichever you prefer. Just repeat this process for the desired number of cloth napkins you want or need. Cloth napkins are a great way to reduce waste around the house and save money on paper products. This is a great project to kick off your sewing journey. Super easy and functional. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our great sewing tutorials and tips. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest content. If you're like me, you love your KitchenAid stand mixer. I was looking for a way to protect it and make it look a little nicer on my countertop. So, I made this KitchenAid stand mixer cover with this free sewing pattern. Let's get started. Start by cutting out the template pieces from the included pattern. Then, using the glue or tape, attach them together to make one piece. Lay the template on the back side of the fabric and trace around it while you hold it in place. You will need to trace 2 of these for both the outer fabric and the liner fabric. Cut out the pieces using scissors or a rotary cutter. Cut another piece of fabric that is 16 inches by 35 inches from both of the fabrics. On the long 35-inch side of the piece of fabric, clip or pin one of the template cut pieces to it. You want the 2 right sides to be touching. Using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew the 2 pieces together using a back stitch at the start and finish. You may have to work the fabric slightly to keep it lined up as you round the turn. Repeat the last 2 steps to add the other piece to the other end. Just take your time and you'll be fine. Using the other fabric, repeat the last 3 steps so that you now will have what looks like 2 separate covers. One of them will be the liner. We are about halfway through this KitchenAid stand mixer cover sewing tutorial. If you are enjoying it so far, hit that like button. Trim off any extra fabric from around your stitching to lessen the bulk. Insert the liner cover into the top cover so that the right sides are touching. Clip or pin them together around the bottom edge. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sew the 2 together, but leave a 3-inch open space in the middle of one side. Be sure to use a backstitch at the start and finish. Through the opening you left, turn the whole thing right side out. Then tuck the liner inside the outer fabric and make sure everything is flat and smooth. Clip or pin along the edge to keep them together. Then along that bottom edge, use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch all the way around, doing a backstitch at the start and finish. Make sure that opening has the raw edges turned inside, as this will close up that opening. Now you have a cute and functional way to protect and store your KitchenAid stand mixer. This is a pretty easy sewing project for skilled or beginner sewers to make. Kids can use it to carry books, toys, or anything they need to bring with them. Ready to get started? As always, start this project by cutting the fabric to the pieces you need. Lay the 2 long, skinny pieces that will make up the strap on top of each other so the wrong sides are touching. Pin each of the ends so the edges stay lined up. Sew the ends together at each end using about 1/4 inch seam. Turn it inside out so the 2 right sides are together. Then, sew about 1/4 inch in from the seam area so that it closes in the raw edge of the other seam. Do this on both ends. Flip the fabric inside right again. Stitch one more time close to the edge of each of the little flaps to tack them down. With the strap done, we now start the bag sides. Lay it so that one of the 15.5 inch by 12 inch pieces is face down. At the end that is 12 inches wide, fold it over by 1/4 inch. Iron it so that it is flat. Then fold again. This time, make the fold 1 inch. Iron again and pin in place about the middle of the fold. Sew those folds in place. Sew just above the folded edge that meets the rest of the fabric. Repeat the last 2 steps for the other side piece of the bag. To attach the straps to the body, start by lining up one of the seams of the strap with the center bottom, non-folded end of the bag. Place it so that the wrong sides are laying on top of each other. Pin in place along the edge. Fold the fabric so that it follows the corner of the side piece and pin in place along the edge. Sew the two together by starting at the center seam area. Continue sewing until just before the corner. To turn the corner, raise the foot and fold the flap in the other direction. Turn the fabric and put the foot back down and stitch all the way to the end. When you get to the end, the folded end, do a few lock stitches. Repeat the last 4 steps with the other side, starting at the bottom seam again. Now, flip it all over and do the same steps to attach the other side panel. Make sure those top edges stay lined up. To attach the bias tape, start by changing the bobbin and the thread on the sewing machine to match the color of the tape. Start about an inch or so from that bottom middle seam, start adding the tape to the raw edge of the bag, and pin it in place as you go. You simply fold the tape over the edge and pin. Work your way all the way around, including the top strap. When you get back to the starting point, trim off extra tape, leaving about a 2-inch tail. Sew the tape in place. As you work around, keep an eye out to make sure as you are stitching that you are stitching through both sides of the tape and the bag. You also want to be sure you are not sewing through to the other side of the bag. Stop when you get back to the starting point. Fold the tail of the tape into itself by about 1 inch. Then, stitch it in place. Repeat those steps to add the tape to the other side, and you are done. Now you have a super cute crossbody tote bag you can enjoy for years to come. Make sure to like and subscribe to Happiest Camper so you don't miss our new sewing projects added weekly. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest content. Talk about roomy! This squared bottom slouchy bag is large enough to carry, well, everything. It is a great solution for your prized possessions while looking stylish and trendy. It is fully lined, reversible, and it comes with the option for a roomy squared bottom or just have a small compact tote. The design is simple, quick, and easy to sew, which makes it perfect for your lifestyle. Let's get started. This project includes a free pattern that you'll need to print and piece together to cut out your fabric pieces. Just visit the link in the video description. Place one main and one lining fabric right sides together, aligning the handles. Pin and sew the handles. You will sew both the inner and outer curves, backstitching at the beginning and end. You will not sew the short section at the top of the handle. Repeat for the other main and lining fabric pieces. Clip the curved area of the handles without cutting into your stitches. To complete the bag handle, take 1/2 of your bag, lay it flat in front of you with the lining fabric facing upwards. Attach a safety pin or bodkin to the lining fabric at the opening in the top of the handle. Feed the safety pin inside the handle until it appears between the main and lining fabric, pulling the handle until it is completely right side out. Take the handle with the safety pin attached and bring it towards the other handle, ensuring the turned strap and the bag are facing right sides together. Feed the safety pin inside the opposite handle until it appears through the opening at the top of the handle. Check again to ensure the main fabric of the handle is facing the main fabric of the bag. Align the raw edge of both handles together, and also position the handles so that the sewn seams are also aligned. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Pin the raw edges of both handles together and sew across the top. Ensure to backstitch at the beginning and the end of the stitch. Repeat for the other handle. Place the main fabrics right sides together. Align the side seams and pin from the main fabric, continuing into the lining. Repeat for the other side. Sew the side seam from the main fabric, continuing to the end of the lining. Pin and sew the main fabric of the base of the bag right sides together. Repeat for the lining, only this time leave a 3-inch opening to turn the bag right side out in future steps. If you feel your fabric is very thick and this opening is too small, increase it to 5 inches. To form the squared bottom base of the bag, take the side seam of the bag and align with the seam at the base of the bag. Align, pin, and sew both seams together. You will repeat this step for the remaining 3 corners of the main fabric as well as on the lining fabric. Turn the bag right side out through the opening left in the lining. To close the opening, ensure the raw edges of the opening are turned inside the bag. Sew the opening closed with a straight stitch, backstitching at the beginning and the end of the stitch. Press the bag and top stitch the bag handles. That's it! Now you have a fun slouchy tote bag to match your style. This baby blanket is easy and turns out so cute and cuddly. We made this using Minky fabric on both sides. However, you could make this same blanket with one side Minky and one side flannel. The first thing you need to do is cut the fabric to size. Cut it with the stretch of the fabric in the 46 inches side. Then cut the top fabric. Mine was the black and white Minky Cuddle to the size of 28 inches by 38 inches. Make the stretch of the fabric on the 38-inch side. You need to mark the center of each side of the fabric with pins. Simply fold the fabric in half and put a pin at each end where the fabric folds. Then fold in half the other way and pin at the fold there too. Do this to both pieces of fabric. I used a little bigger pin here so I can easily see the center from the rest of the pins. Lay the back fabric face up, working first from the stretchy side of the fabric, 46-inch side. Then, lay the top fabric face down on top of it. Make sure you have both fabrics with matching stretch directions. Line them up by making the center pin marks match up. Pin the edges together all the way down the side, stopping when you run out of top fabric. I pinned about an inch apart as it is very important in these first steps to make sure it does not shift at all. Time to start sewing. Start from the center pin, sew down the side using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Stop stitching a 1/2 inch before the end of the top fabric. Do a back stitch at the start and finish. A back stitch should be done every time you start and finish stitching through this whole tutorial. Then, turn the blanket around and start from the center, and sew the other direction of this same side again, stopping 1/2 inch before the end of the top fabric. Sewing 1/2 in each direction helps to keep the stretch from getting off and out of control. Repeat this process with 2 more sides. When you are pinning and come to the edge that has already been stitched, just push the extra backing fabric out of the way and pin that top fabric lined up with the backing fabric until there is no more top fabric. On the last side, it is done pretty much the same as the other 3. The only thing we will do differently is the starting sewing point. This time, don't start sewing at the center pin. Start about 4 inches down from it in each direction. This will leave about an 8-inch opening that we will need later to turn it right side out. Lay the blanket backing side down on the table and smooth out so that the backing fabric is as evenly distributed all the way around the blanket. Grab the corner fabric and line the edges evenly, starting where it meets the top stitched fabric. Pin the corner lined fabric in place at an angle just as it meets the fabric underneath. You don't pin it to the fabric underneath, just pin the corner fabric to itself. Now, turn the whole blanket over and lay it so that those pins are flat. Use a ruler to line it where the stitching ends and mark it at an angle with a marker. The mark should pretty much go right over at an angle where those first pins are. Add more pins just to the side of those to make sure nothing moves. Sew it together right down that mark you made, removing the pins in that line as you go. Leave the pins to the side in place until after stitching is done. Repeat the last 3 steps for the other 3 corners. Cut off the extra corner fabric. Just make sure you do not cut into your stitching. Reach your arm inside the 8-inch opening you left on one of the sides. Turn the whole blanket right side out. Then, using your finger from the inside, push those corners to make sure they fully turned out and are formed. Lay the blanket flat again, making sure the backing fabric is evenly distributed around the sides. At the opening area, turn it inside itself by 1/2 inch and pin in place. Then pin where the 2 fabrics meet all the way around the blanket. Make sure the pins go all the way through to the back fabric. Change the stitching on the machine to a zigzag stitch. For me, I used number 3. Using the zigzag stitch, stitch all the way around the blanket where the two meet and are pinned. When you are finished stitching, you are done! Now you have a super cute, soft Minky baby blanket. This is a great gift for new moms or moms-to-be. If you enjoyed this video, hit the bell to get notified about all our new sewing tutorials, and be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our latest projects. We'd love to hear from you about what things you want to see on the channel. Let us know what you think about this project and drop us a comment below.